Part 52. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 511. Chapter 511 Escape. In the days that followed, immortal King Xiaoao would visit them once a day, and of course he would beat them once a day, beating both of them until there was only one breath left every time. Yuan was extremely angry, but there was nothing she could do. Those who refine the divine clothing never expected that the user would be beaten like this. Half a year has passed like this. Yuan is a little better. After being beaten every day, she can use the exercises to heal her injuries, but Mujukan cannot. The power of the immortal king is not something he can resist. There is no point in being impatient, he can only persevere. Xiaoao immortal king did not come that day, so Yuan hurriedly practiced. He probably found some way. King Xiaoao didn't find a way, but he found a person at the level of the immortal emperor. He planned to cooperate with him and first find a way to get the treasures from Yuan and the two of them. But the other party's cultivation level is so much higher than him, and I'm afraid that he will take advantage of him, so I just went to have a look this time. Of course, he was the only one who knew the fairy mansion where he lived, and he killed all the people who knew about it. The next day, immortal King Xiaoao did not come again. Yuan was overjoyed. She broke out a crack in the first layer of restrictions in the sea of consciousness, but there was still another layer of restrictions inside. At this rate, it will still take half a year. I hope that immortal King Xiaoao won't come back so soon. It is true that immortal King Xiaoao did not come back again, but was killed by the immortal emperor. At the moment of his death, King Xiaoao was so remorseful that his intestines turned green with regret. He defended himself but was still killed. He is obsessed with ghosts. He is itching to see the treasures on Yuan and the two of them every day, so he comes to find this of death. It's just that it's useless for him to regret it. The immortal emperor threw away the body of immortal King Xiaoao and snorted coldly, "Humph! You idiot, you sent it to your door to find death. Just searched the soul of immortal King Xiaoao and found out where his immortal mansion is." The immortal emperor arrived outside immortal King Xiaoao's immortal mansion in the blink of an eye, waved his hand to break the barrier, and lifted the two of them out. Yuan was shocked. She had almost broken through the restriction just now, when someone suddenly mentioned her. When she saw that Mujukan was still there, she finally felt relieved. "Ha ha ha, it's really you two." The immortal emperor waved his hand and put on the barrier and laughed. "People from the immortal realm are looking for them like crazy. They heard that this person has a sect, and people from their immortal spirit sect are also looking for him. They also say that he stole the treasures from their sect and he is a fugitive disciple of their immortal spirit section. I am a little, Tianyuan's old-fashioned dogs, deceiving the world, stealing the treasures of your ancestors, ha ha ha." If it is really their treasures of Xianling Zone, he climbed up early to his head to shit. Yuan let him laugh, still running her skills to attack the restriction. This person has broken the barrier of the immortal king, and his cultivation level must be higher than that of the immortal king. "You look pretty good, little girl. Don't bother even if you break through the restriction and can use your spiritual consciousness. Can you escape from the clutches of this immortal emperor? I advise you to hand it over yourself." East Emperor trapped them in a small barrier with a wave of his hand, and looked at Yuan's stunning face and said. When Mujukan was thrown to Yuan's side, he quickly protected her in his arms. His eyes were red, and he wanted to summon Nanming Gliwo to come out and fight him to the death. Yuan shook her head at him. She looked at the man in white clothes with an air of immortality, her eyes showing disdain. "Looks like a human or a dog, with eyes full of filth." Yuan said, "Then you can lift our restrictions and see." "Ha ha ha, you woman really think this immortal emperor is stupid? That's interesting." The immortal emperor looked at Yuan funny, a little reluctant to kill her. He had countless concubines, but none of them was so stunning. but he thought that the treasures they carried would not only allow him to safely survive the catastrophe, ascend to the realm of gods, but also obtain the legendary life space. No matter whether this thing is true or not, he would rather believe that it is true than that it is not true. It's just not easy to get that treasure. A treasure like this must have a soul contract with its owner. The soul contract is usually destroyed by the loss of the treasure, and the owner can only voluntarily terminate the contract. However, once the soul contract is terminated, both parties will be injured, especially the owner. Most of the souls will be damaged and they will be like a fool. It was impossible for the little female cultivator to automatically terminate the contract. He looked at Mujukin. Before he could speak, Yuan had already seen his plan and said, "I advise you not to take advantage of him, otherwise I would rather destroy the treasure." "Are you threatening me?" The immortal emperor narrowed his eyes and looked at Yuan. Yuan nodded. "As long as you want the treasure, I can threaten you." It's coming, she still has a little restriction in the sea of consciousness, so she wants to give him a little more time. Yuan held on to Mujukin and got ready. The Eastern Emperor lowered his face and said, "Aren't you afraid that I, the immortal emperor, will forcefully strip you off?" Yuan looked at him as if he was an idiot. He was able to take away their lives and still keep them alive until now. She sneered and said, "You can try it if you have a soul contract." Dongde was so angry that he almost crushed the two of them to death on the spot, but he really couldn't. He suppressed the anger in his heart, and looked at the two people hugging each other, which was so painful to his eyes. He waved his hand and put them into Kinkin's sleeves. It disappeared in the blink of an eye. The two people in Kinkin's sleeve had no idea that they had changed places. They were still in the small barrier. Suddenly, the two people in the small barrier disappeared out of thin air. Yuan in the space let out a long sigh of relief. At the last moment, that immortal emperor left. Didn't that give her a chance? Yuan didn't stop and quickly passed through the boundary gate and came to a small space. After returning to his fairy palace, Emperor Dong waved out the barrier. When he saw that the barrier was empty, he was dumbfounded. Immediately entered the barrier, and even using the space exploration technique, no trace of space was found. That's right, Dongdi is a space array mage. He is confident that he can't escape his space exploration. Those two little shrimps can't escape his space magic as long as they are in the barrier. He never thought that Yuan not only had space, but also a realm. She could go to any realm she wanted, but he couldn't detect it. Eastern Emperor was so angry that he almost vomited blood and died. The duck he got actually flew away. He immediately sent an order to search for those two people in the Eastern Immortal Territory. It was a secret. And it needs to be alive. East Emperor knew that there was zero hope of finding the two of them, but he was unwilling to give in. In the small space, it took Mujukin a long time to get rid of the restrictions. As soon as the restraint was lifted, he recovered from his injuries. "Oh. I said I would go shopping, but I'm fine now. I regretted getting into such a big trouble before I even entered the city. I took Mujukin with me at the first time and left. I didn't encounter anyone after that. Xiner, she won't reveal their secrets so frantically. Now their secret is no longer a secret, everyone in the world knows it." Mujukin kissed her. "Don't be discouraged. Let's go out invisibly. There is still a culprit on the loose. How can we make her proud?" "Well, I'm afraid she won't have much freedom. She was burned by Xiao Zi, and she was lucky to survive, so disfigurement was necessary." End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 512. Chapter 512, Lure the Snake Out of Its Hole. Mujukin reacted, and he embraced her lovingly. Yuan thought that the immortals knew her secret, and one by one they came up and imprisoned their consciousness. She had to make preparations for going out this time. She took Mujukan into the space, and she used her spiritual consciousness to see if the realm gate had any more functions after it was fused with another fragment. She also went to the divine world to see if there were any artifacts that could protect her spiritual consciousness. Yuan's spiritual consciousness came to the gate of the realm. There was still 1/3 of the phantom part of the gate. Once the remaining 1/3 of the gate was found, the gate would be complete. She made the gate face the God realm. People still cannot enter the God realm, but the picture of the God realm can be moved. Yuan asked the boundary gate to be moved to a place with a city, and she looked at the shop. The gate of the realm moved slowly, and Yuan also slowly looked around. In the divine realm, there were mountains and rivers, villages, and people like mortals working in the fields. There are also sects, cities, and markets, which are similar to the spiritual world and the fairy world. When she moved to a large city, Yuan was looking for a shop. When she found the artifact shop, she looked for the artifact to protect her consciousness. It seems that there are very few artifacts in this area. Yuan searched several cities before finding 2 items. One was a clock and the other was a cover. Yuan took 2 things, originally wanting to leave some sacred stones for others, but now Jimin can only take things from the divine realm and cannot put anything in. The 2 of them contracted the artifact and came out. Let's go out now. If we have any grudges, we must avenge them on the spot. After saying this, Yuan's consciousness moved and the 2 of them left the space. The 2 of them came directly to the fairy world, became invisible and flew towards the city. The 2 of them entered the city in a big way. They looked around and found that there was no image of the 2 of them possessing the artifact. There is only one wanted order, issued by the Immortal Spirit section. The content is that Mujukan, a disciple of the Immortal Spirit sect, has stolen the sect's sex-suppressing artifact and will be arrested throughout the immortal realm from now on, until it is captured. The 2 of them curled their lips. This Xianling sect was really shameless, and they still had the sect's divine weapon. Yuan really wanted to go to the Xianling sect and make this theft a reality. It's really that she doesn't like those things. Who would put the really good things outside? The ones outside are for the disciples outside to do tasks as rewards. What are they using it for? The 2 of them walked around dozens of cities, but no one was in sight. They didn't know that even Xiner was looking for them, and they were almost going crazy. Mujukan, it's hard for us to find someone like this. Do you want to show up and lure the snake out of its hole? Wouldn't it be very dangerous for us? Mujukan shook his head. He didn't want Wanner to take risks. It was a fluke that I escaped from the hands of the Immortal Emperor last time. I'm afraid I won't be so lucky if I'm captured by an Immortal Emperor or something like that again. There's no way we can look like this. As long as we show up, Lian Xiner will definitely come. Trust me once, we will be fine. Yuan shook Mujukan's arm, and she felt unhappy if she didn't kill the culprit. Very. There's really nothing we can do about you. Mujukan poked her head and shook his head. He would always find someone if he searched like this, but it just took a little longer. Once they are exposed, they will cause trouble again. The next day, the 2 men appeared at the city gate and entered the city in a big way. Huh, it's those 2 people. They were discovered as soon as they appeared, but they entered the city and no one dared to attack them in the city. The 2 of them let the immortals surround them. It's really the 2 of them, how brave they are. I would have been hidden from the world for a long time. Aren't there people from the Xianling sect here? Aren't we trying to arrest them? Arrest? Are you still using them to arrest me? Are you still talking about whether you can get out of here or not? Meaning that the people from the Xianling sect were captured before they could wait. I have space, but I don't know how to run away. Let me tell you, there must be something going on with these 2 people showing up. Yuan glanced at the immortal and had to say that there were smart people who knew their intentions. Not long after, several immortals with powerful auras flew over. The 2 of them were almost done. Yuan smiled at those people and entered the space with a movement of consciousness. Wow, there's really room. Everyone was surprised when they saw them disappearing into thin air. It used to be a legend. Who would believe it when it said about space treasures? How can any treasure be exposed to others? Today they finally saw it. Invisibility and teleportation have different characteristics. These two people just disappeared out of thin air. The immortals who came with a few rapid shots didn't leave in a hurry when they saw the person disappearing, and quickly sent the news back. These people are one group from the Eastern Emperor, one group from the Immortal Spirit Sect, and one group from other forces. In less than a stick of incense, the news that the two men appeared in Fenki City spread like wings in the fairy world, and many immortals hurried over. Lian Xiner found out about it in the afternoon. She rushed over in a hurry and grabbed an earthly immortal in the city to ask questions. Tell me, are they these two people? Lian Xiner threw out the images of Yuan and the two, and the earth immortal nodded repeatedly. He saw that they were really these two people. Lian Xiner got the accurate information, and she quickly sent the message back to the section. She suffered a loss at the hands of two people last time, so she should be smarter this time. As long as the information is true and the two of them are caught, the sect promised to let Yuan heal her. What she didn't know was that Yu and Wan were monitoring the place on the mountain at the gate of the city. As long as she showed up, they would definitely not let her go. It's just that Yuan and the others couldn't recognize her in the way she was dressed. The two of them were careless. They knew that Lian Xiner's true face would definitely not be revealed after his face was disfigured. With so many people covering their heads and faces, they really couldn't recognize Lian Xiner. Fortunately, one of the elders of the Xianling sect was in Fenki City. After receiving the message, he joined Lian Xiner. Disciple Lian Xiner has met the master. Lian Xiner bowed as a disciple. Changliu Immortal King looked at Lian Xiner's attire and asked, "Why are you dressed like this?" Lian Xiner told the story of her encounter with Mujukan and the two of them. Of course, she would not say that she was the one who revealed the artifact they were carrying, but that she discovered that the two men were being pursued by the section. The defecting disciples fought with them, but they failed and were disfigured. Changliu Immortal King didn't bother to ask about Lian Xiner's face. He only asked Lian Xiner what Mujukan had in his hand. The scene of Changliu's appearance was caught by Yuan and his two men's consciousness. Mujukan, that cloaked man must be Lian Xiner. Yuan pointed at the cloaked man Lian Xiner and said, "Yes, it's her." Mujukan nodded. He had met Lian Xiner several times. Although he couldn't see his face, his figure still looked similar. "Let's go, let's follow." The two men immediately entered the city again, following Lian Xiner and the others. Even Xiner was afraid of meeting Mujukan alone, so she asked to follow Changliu. Changliu agreed. After all, she was also a disciple of the Xianling sect. The two of them entered the inn, and Lian Xiner opened a room to stay. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 513. Chapter 513 The Death of Lian Xiner. Lian Xiner entered the inn feeling extremely depressed. In fact, she had only left here 2 days ago. If he hadn't left, he would have definitely run into those two people today. But she couldn't do anything when she met the two of them. She was confused. She just hoped that when the two of them appeared again, someone in the sect would catch them. Maybe she still had a glimmer of hope. Although this hope was slim, she did not give up. Lian Xiner was sitting on the futon in the room in an irritable mood, thinking about things. Inexplicably uneasy. She thought it was because of worry, and she didn't even think about the danger approaching. Mujukin and Mujukin came out of the space, stood next to Lien Xiner invisibly, and quietly sprinkled the poison. At the same time, he wrapped Lien Xiner with his spiritual consciousness. Just when Lien Xiner felt something was wrong, he was already moved into the space by Yuan. In the space, Yu and Wan appeared and sat in front of Lien Xiner. Lien Xiner couldn't even breathe smoothly when she saw the two of them sitting in front of her so suddenly. "You, it's you. It's us. Why, shouldn't we be happy in the place that is in your heart? You are so scared." Lien Xiner looked around and immediately understood that this was the legendary life space. But she didn't feel any joy at this moment, and was extremely scared. If they could get her here without anyone noticing, could her life be saved? This reminded her of the past 10 nights in the sect, when the disciples in the sect had mysteriously disappeared under the eyes of the ancestors. At that time, she guessed that it was the two of them who did it, and it turned out to be them. Lien Xiner's mind was spinning rapidly, and he pretended to be calm and said, "Let me go quickly, the elders of the sect are here." Yuan curled her lips at her. People's IQ is also worrying when they are scared. It is a joke that she is still afraid of that elder in her territory. She has lost the mood to kill her for revenge. "Leave it to you," Yuan said to Mujukin, turned around and left. She felt like she was an idiot even if she said one more word to such an idiot. Mujukin nodded. He must have said something or something. After being hurt so badly by this crazy woman, he had to let her die to understand why. "Mujukin, please let me go, please. I was wrong. For the sake of our friendship and the reason why we brought you back to save your life." As soon as Yuan left, Lien Xiner's heart felt cold and she quickly knelt down to Mujukin and begged for mercy. "What's the point of treating the face? Let's save our lives." Mujukin shook his head and said, "You are so evil-hearted. How did we, our husband and wife, offend you? You have harmed us several times, and this time it was even more serious, directly exposing the secrets of our husband and wife. And you are here when you attacked me from behind. Why didn't you think about what would happen if you fell into my hands if I didn't die? Not to mention you didn't say a word about saving me from the beginning to the end. Why don't you save me? I've talked so much nonsense with you today just to make you understand that it's not a pity for someone like you to die." Lien Xiner was stunned for a moment after hearing this. It turned out that others knew what she had done. It's a big joke to beg for mercy. Just admit it if they catch you. Even the last shred of hope in Xiner's heart was gone. She collapsed on the ground like a dead dog, and even her soul was too lazy to escape. At this moment, Lien Xiner's mind was filled with all the things she had experienced in her life. Haha, there were really not many glorious things. After Mujukin said that, he immediately threw out the Nanming Liwo. He was so disgusted that he didn't even want to take another look at it. He directly blocked his hearing. He didn't accept the Nanming Liwo until Lien Xiner turned into ashes. As soon as Nanming Li's fire was gone, the handful of ashes on the ground were absorbed by the black soil. "Hu," Mujukin took a long breath and finally killed this scourge. "Are we leaving?" Yuan saw him dealing with Lien Xiner and came out to ask him. "Let's go." Mujukin felt much more relieved as he felt that his great revenge had been avenged. "Next stop, go to the Xianling sect, or go to that Dongdi. The immortal realm is divided into 4 major regions, namely, Southeast, Southeast and Northwest. The Eastern Emperor is the person who manages the Eastern Immortal region." Mujukin's eyes were a little darker and he said, "Let's go to the Xianling sect and have a look." It's not that he still misses the Xianling sect, but he wants to miss them a little. Mujukin felt that his current moral character was very similar to Wan'er's. "If you respect me a foot, I will give you a foot in return." Didn't it mean that he stole the Zhenzong artifact? Then he would steal it? Yuan had no such plan originally, but now that Mujukan is going, she still doesn't understand what this guy wants to do. Just in time, the two of them went to commit the theft. Yuandu admired himself for doing the theft so well. The two of them came to the sky above Xianling sect to see where to start. After watching for a long time, the two of them focused on the treasure house of the Xianling section. When no one came in or out at night, the two of them went in and looted everything. Don't mention it, there are still a lot of elixirs, ores, elixirs, immortal stones, and immortal weapons in it, and they are still of some use to them. Whatever they don't need can be left to the remaining tribes. Do you want to steal some more from those ancestors? Anyway, stealing one is stealing. Steal a few more and teach them a lesson. Mujukan touched his chin and nodded, but those ancestors have a very rich collection, which is much more valuable than these things. Okay, let's go back to space. I have to steal those things myself. Mujukan nodded. The two of them entered the space, and Yuan used the boundary gate to find Tianyuan first, a place she had been to before. Yuan stared at the space ring in his hand and shouted, and the ring was placed in her hand. After that, she used the same method to collect all the rings of the other three ancestors. Yuan also stole the immortal King Changshun from Sixiang Peak. This man was also a bad guy, and he often made sneak attacks behind Mujukan in the past. The two of them stole and left immediately. They were always going to get out of trouble when they were done, no matter how frivolous they were. Afterwards, Yuan controlled the realm gate to find the Dong Emperor's fairy palace, and used the same method to empty his fairy palace. The two of them had a big fight and hurriedly left the East Immortal Territory and went to the West Immortal Territory. Let's say that the people of the Immortal Spirit sect first discovered that the person who had been stolen was the immortal King Changshun. He reached a critical moment in his cultivation and wanted to take out some immortal stones, but even though his consciousness moved a few times, he did not see the immortal stones come out. He was wondering, is there no fairy stone anymore? At this moment, he didn't realize that his space ring had disappeared. When he looked at his finger with his consciousness, there was no space ring anywhere on it. He touched it with his hand, but there was none. Huh, strange. Changshun Immortal King's spiritual consciousness sensed that there was no connection with the space ring. He got up and looked around. What a ghost. The formation was still open, but his space ring was inexplicably missing. Changshun Immortal King's head was suddenly buzzing, and he hurriedly went to the sect leader to report the matter. Who has such magical power to steal his ring without damaging his soul? End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 514. Chapter 514. This is not a human being, this is a god. This is not a human being, this is a god. My mother, the more immortal King Changshun thinks about it, the more afraid he becomes. Fortunately, he only took away the space ring and did not kill him. When he arrived at the main hall of the sect master, the sect leader was sitting in the main hall without a thought and at a loss. Changshun Immortal King saw his lost look and what else he didn't understand, so he stepped forward to pull him up and flew towards Tianyuan Immortal Mansion. Go. Tianyuan was still meditating at the moment, and he came out immediately when he heard the boy coming from outside to report. Ancestor, something bad is going to happen, Changshun shouted when he saw Tianyuan coming out and pulled the sect master to kneel down. What's so serious? Tianyuan frowned and looked at the two of them as if they had seen a ghost. Ancestor, my space ring has disappeared inexplicably, Immortal King Changshun said hurriedly. The space ring is missing, Tianyuan was puzzled. The space ring has a contractual relationship with its owner, so how could it be missing? He subconsciously touched his fingers. This touch made his heart feel cold. He and his were gone. Tianyuan took a breath, this matter is serious. Changshun watched Tianyuan's face change again and again, and he felt a bad feeling rising in his heart. No, The ancestor's space ring is also missing, right? At this moment, 3 people suddenly appeared in the main hall. They were the other 3 ancestors. Disciple has met 3 ancestors. Chang Shun hurriedly greeted him. The 3 of them didn't even try to shake them off. They came directly to Tianyuan and looked at his hand intently. There was no space ring on it. It was the same as theirs. It was empty. Although Tian Xian is a female fairy, she has the worst temper. She threw Chang Shun and the sect leader who were an eyesore out of the hall with a wave of her hand. She then turned to Tianyuan and said, "Brother, this is too weird. What should we do now?" If that man took their lives, the 4 of them were shocked and broke into sweat on their backs. Tianyuan seemed to have lost his soul. He said, "This matter must not be made public. Chang Shun and Chang Xiu came here just now. I guess they are also the same. Send an order to cancel the arrest order for Mujukan and reinstate his inner disciple's identity. No, be my personal disciple." Tian Xian's eyebrows narrowed. "Senior brother, do you think this matter has something to do with Mujukan?" Tianyuan said in a deep voice, "I don't know whether this matter has anything to do with him, but it must have something to do with him." The 3 of them fell into deep thought after hearing this. Their treasure, which they had accumulated for so long, was gone just like that. Tianyuan also feels sorry for his baby, but compared with his life is more important. Tianyuan squinted his eyes and looked outside zone, and his thoughts drifted to the sky. He can be the helmsman of the Xianling sect, and his mind is extremely clear. Mujukan's arrival in the fairy world was a strange thing. How did he come? How can a monk who has not yet reached the level of immortal resist the strong wind of the space channel? Is he really a minor cultivator from the lower world? Tianyuan is a little skeptical. And his amazing cultivation speed. There are even more treasures on his body. It is understood that the treasures on his body were only acquired after he came to the sect. Where do these come from? And judging from the theft of their space this time, Tianyuan thought that except for people from the God realm, he could not think of anyone in the immortal realm who had this kind of ability to reach the sky. So, Mujukan must have been thrown down by some big shot in the God realm for training. This time they were robbed only after Mujukan and his wife appeared. Tianyuan guessed that it must be that person who taught them a lesson. That's why he called off the pursuit of Mujukan and accepted him as his personal disciple. If something similar will not happen again in the future, then his speculation is valid. If his guess is wrong, it would not be a loss to accept him as a disciple. With his cultivation speed, the treasures in his body are not something that can be found in a pond. Sure enough, the Tianxianling zone withdrew its pursuit of Mujukan from the eastern immortal realm, clarified his name, and issued an immortal order. Mujukan was the direct disciple of the ancestor Tianyuan of the Xianling sect. Everyone in the eastern immortal territory knew that Patriarch Tianyuan was very powerful and had no disciples in his life. This withdrawal made people in the eastern immortal territory have different opinions. When Mujukan and Mujukan showed up in Fenki City, everyone present saw the fact that they had treasures. Ancestor Tianyuan did this just to covet the treasures on Mujukan and steal them openly. Some people think that if they don't get it, it will be used by the sect. Some people think that Patriarch Tianyuan did this because he was sincerely protecting Mujukan, and he would not rob other people's treasures in front of everyone in the world. Then the Xianling sect is still shameless. Can it be passed on? In short, it has everything. On the other side, Dongde was really angry. The moment he learned that all his treasures were lost, he was so angry that he vomited blood and fainted. After I woke up, I asked someone to check it, but there was no trace of it, as if these things had disappeared out of thin air. Disappear into thin air. Dongde clenched his fists loudly, thinking that the 2 little shrimps also disappeared out of thin air. He suddenly thought that it must be those 2 people who did it. But he couldn't figure out that his fairy palace had formations and barriers. What kind of magic did they use to come and go freely, and steal his treasure without him even noticing. No matter what, Dongdi had no intention of letting the two of them go, which made him want their treasures even more. So the Emperor of the East issued a secret order to capture the two men, the same as before, they must be alive. Yuan and the other two did not know what was happening in the East Immortal Territory. They were currently in the Qingji Desert of the West Immortal Territory. Kyoji Desert means entering this desert, and Kyoji will never be able to get out of this desert in his life. The Qingji Desert is extremely dangerous, and mirages often appear. I heard that there are countless treasures in mirages. So many immortals who were not afraid of death entered and wanted to explore the mirage. The wages of avarice is death. Yuan and the others also entered with a group of immortals. Of course, it was Mujukan who showed up, and Yuan followed invisibly. A little Liangsu entered the Qingji Desert. When others saw this combination, they knew that the two of them were the two people from the Eastern Immortal Territory who were armed with divine weapons. So Mujukan disguised himself as an ordinary earthly immortal man and followed a group of immortals. There were a total of 12 people in their group, and the leader was an old woman of the immortal king level. She was hobbling forward with an inconspicuous dragon-headed cane. Both of them knew that the crutch in the old woman's hand looked ordinary, but it was actually a top-notch celestial weapon, made from a real complete dragon bone. Powerful. The Kyoji Desert is extremely hot and lacks immortal energy. In order to keep the immortal energy in the body from being lost quickly, everyone walks in the desert like ordinary people. They can also fly, but the ferocious beasts in the air are extremely ferocious, and fighting them consumes more of the immortal power in the body, and they cannot be killed no matter how hard they are killed. There are dangers in the air, and there are also many dangers on the ground. Otherwise, how could we have come to this end? When walking on the ground, you must also be careful about the poisonous beasts in the desert, so everyone drives very slowly. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 515. Chapter 515 Qingji Desert. Boy, walk faster. An immortal from the heavenly immortal realm in front of him kindly reminded Mujukan. Mujukan raised his hand and said, "Thank you, Senior. I will follow you as soon as possible." "What are you keeping up with?" "There is a lot of food for the blood-devouring monster insects in the desert. They must be full. This is a rare food that enhances strength." If it wasn't too conspicuous, they both went off alone. "Everyone, be careful," suddenly the old woman shouted and raised her crutch in defense. Boom! Just as the old woman finished shouting, an extremely large green-skinned beast emerged from the desert about 100 feet in front of them. The green-skinned beast looks like a toad. When its belly bulges and it opens its mouth, it spits out dozens of poisonous arrows and shoots at more than a dozen people. More than a dozen people fled away. The few people who were slow and did not dodge were hit by several poisonous arrows. The poisonous arrows turned into venom for a while, eroding away the defensive shields on the immortals. The poison instantly sprayed on those people, burning them. The fairy clothes, and then the body. Immediately, several immortals screamed in pain. Several people quickly swallowed the antidote elixir and healed their injuries on the spot. That poisonous beast is so fast that even the immortals in the heavenly immortal realm cannot avoid its attack. Mujukan and the other two managed to avoid it, relying on Yuan's star step. "Let's attack it together." At this time, the old woman's voice came again. At the same time as her voice sounded, she had already raised her crutch and rushed towards the poisonous beast. The crutch turned into a golden dragon and bit into the poisonous beast. The attack of the poisonous beast was also changed to the golden dragon biting it. Several other uninjured immortals heard the old woman's cry and flew over to fight with the poisonous beast. Mujukan and Mujukan watched from a distance. There were 8 or 10 fighting scenes in a day, and they couldn't stay together. The sky is dark, the earth is dark, the yellow sand is diffuse, the figures are indistinct, and the sky is full of magic. This is the scene of every scene. When all the dust settles, either the beast or the man will die. After a stick of incense, the fight ended with heart-rending screams. The old woman put away her crutches, stepped forward and kicked the corpse of the poisonous beast. With a wave of her hand, the others followed her and quickly left the place. Mujukin also hurriedly followed, but when he passed the poisonous beast's corpse, the poisonous beast's corpse disappeared out of thin air. Yuan, who had become invisible, smiled and threw it to the blood-devouring monster insects, which was enough for them to have a feast. After a moment, everyone moved away from here before stopping. The old woman put up a barrier for everyone to sit down and heal. The old woman glanced at Mujukin. She saw it when Yuan collected the corpse of the poisonous beast just now, but she thought it was Mujukin who collected it. She was very puzzled as to why Chenju, pseudonym, the weakest and weirdest person in the team, was doing these poisonous corpses. Poisonous beasts were not considered fairy beasts, and the corpses were not of much value. This man kept collecting them all the way. Mujukin was indifferent to the old woman's attention. He sat silently with Yuan on the edge and meditated. He also has to maintain the immortal power in his body to guard against not only the poisonous beasts in the desert, but also these immortals. Mujukin, let's go alone in a while. The blood-eating demonic insects are going to survive the disaster again. At this time, Yuan sent a message to Mujukin. Good. When everyone had replenished their immortal power, the old woman waved her hand and removed the barrier, and everyone continued on their way. Chenju, walk in the middle. The old woman pointed at Mujukin and said. Mujukin nodded and walked to the middle of the team. The team had just walked for an hour when rustling sounds rang out in the desert. Defense! The old woman shouted while holding her cane. Golden armored beast, someone exclaimed. Run, one of them shouted. Don't run, get ready to fight, the old woman shouted sharply. The 10 people were afraid of the golden armored beast, but they were even more afraid of the old woman. The dragon-headed crutch was not only powerful in attack, but could also devour immortals. 10 people had to summon their magical weapons to prepare for battle. Mujukin also took out a fairy weapon and prepared it. Golden armored beasts are one of the most difficult poisonous beasts in the desert. They are small, only as big as an adult's fist, but there are many of them. Their carapace is extremely hard, they have a pair of wings, and they also have sharp fangs. There is almost no weakness. When an immortal encounters a golden armored beast, it is best not to fight, but to run away if possible. The sound of rustling came from far away, and within a few breaths, densely packed golden armored beasts surrounded the 13 people, including Yuan. Yuan looked at the fist-sized golden armored beast with a golden body. It was golden, like a moving ball of gold. She really wanted to catch a few of them and see if they were really gold. She found that she had no resistance to these golden things. I lost interest just watching them holding up their thumb-sized pliers one after another, making the clicking sound. This thing looks cute, but is actually extremely cruel. Her blood-eating demonic insects are cuter. The golden armored beast looked at a dozen people, they were extremely excited. The immortal, with his immortal power, is a delicious meal in the eyes of these poisonous insects and ferocious beasts. A large number of golden armored beasts flew up and covered everyone like golden blankets. We are ready to leave. At the moment when the golden armored beast pounced, Mujukin hugged Yuan, and then the 2 of them disappeared. No one noticed that he was missing. The 2 of them came to another part of the desert. Mujukin quickly set up a formation, while Yuan covered it with fairy stones, and then threw out the first blood-eating monster insect that had overcome the tribulation. When the calamity thunder came down, all the poisonous insects and ferocious beasts in this area were scared away and stared at this place from a distance. Especially the red explosive dragon, whose territory was being robbed by others. If it wasn't afraid of the thunder, it would have swallowed them up in the morning. At this moment, I have no choice but to squat in the distance, waiting for the lightning strike to finish, and it will take revenge for occupying the nest. Yuan Wan didn't take it seriously. Mujukan, do you think they can escape? It's difficult, but the old woman can probably escape. It's a pity that our blood-devouring monsters have to survive the catastrophe, otherwise we can still give them a full meal. Yuan was a pity. She wanted to pick up everything she saw and feed it to the blood-devouring monsters. The meat of the golden armored beast is very delicious, almost the same as the lobster, and the shell is also a good material for refining weapons. If you sell it, you can get a lot of fairy stones. You're afraid you won't have anything to feed them when they finish their catastrophe, Mujukan said and glanced at the red explosive dragon in the distance. The fiery red crimson explosive dragon has palm-sized scales all over its body. Its long tail is the most aggressive and it spits fire from its mouth to attack its opponents. That one is bigger than the previous green beast. Yuan nodded, that one definitely couldn't escape. When the first blood-eating demonic insect had finished crossing over, the red exploding dragon leapt towards Mujukan and the two of them. Before they could reach them, another calamity thunder struck from the sky. So many, the red explosive dragon spun back, confused and forgetting about the tribulation thunder falling from the sky. When it had not been completed day after day, month after month, year after year, the red explosive dragon simply left. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 516. Chapter 516 Star Body. Yuan and the two couldn't help but smile. It's good to leave, you can still save your life. 2 years later, the calamity of the blood-eating monster insects was finally over. Just when the dark clouds in the sky dispersed, there was a sudden buzz in the sky, and a brilliant light appeared above their heads, and jagged fairy palaces appeared one after another. Mirage. The two of them were surprised and looked at the spectacular scene together. Waner, quickly collect the blood-eating demonic insects and become invisible. Immortals are coming, Mujukan said quickly. His spiritual consciousness was strong and he had already sensed the sound of breaking through the air. Good. Yuan immediately collected the blood-eating demonic insect that finally succeeded in overcoming the tribulation, and then took Mujukan's hand and the two of them became invisible at the same time. Sure enough, just as they became invisible, several figures shot out from a distance, as well as powerful poisonous insects and poisonous beasts in the desert, but they were clearly separated from the immortals. It seemed that this was not the first time this happened. The two watched them to see what they would do. This mirage is said to be above their heads. It seems very close, but in fact it is far away. Don't even know what is true or false. While the two were watching them, some powerful immortals had already flown towards the mirage. When those figures are no longer visible, the mirage is still there shining brightly. Let's go, Yuan pulled Mujukan and said, just fly away. She was afraid that she would never be able to fly. She felt that the mirage was not in the fairy world at all. It is very similar to those floating palaces in the divine world. Yuan took Mujukan into the space and controlled the world gate to search for the mirage. After searching for a long time, a scene similar to a mirage appeared on the opposite side of the boundary gate, but Yuan could not enter. It is indeed not in the fairy world. Unable to get in, she used her spiritual consciousness to check the situation of the palaces at the boundary gate. There were irregular floating between palaces. The palaces were not as radiant, majestic, and beautiful as those seen in the desert, but very shabby, some even tattered. The palace was deathly silent, lifeless, without a single creature, as if it had been abandoned. Master, that is Ziwei Palace. Xiao Zi told Yuan through her spiritual consciousness that among the many rotten palaces, The big purple palace in the middle was the Zaiwei Palace. Zaiwei Palace, do you know? Yuan turned her head. Could it be? Is it about you or about me? It has something to do with us. Sure enough. Did someone destroy it? Well, master, those people are very powerful. Those people? Yuan frowned. Is there more than one person? Of course, otherwise the master couldn't defeat one person. They besieged the master together, and the master fell because he couldn't defeat him alone. Xiao Zi unconsciously said a lot more when she saw the dilapidated Zaiwei Palace. Yuan quickly took the opportunity to ask again, no one can help me. Yes, didn't I help the master at that time? Xiao Zi said aggrievedly. Xiao Zi, don't be sad, the master is not talking about you, the master is saying, I have no parents, brothers, or sisters, can my friends help me? There are many palaces there, and who lives in the other palaces? Where does the master come from? No relatives? Master, could it be that I jumped out of the cracks in the rocks? Yuan was a little depressed. I don't know. When the master took me in, I didn't see any parents, brothers, sisters, or friends. Yuan felt sad. Could it be that she was not a human being at that time, but a human body cultivated by some kind of spirit? Zaiwei Palace is where I live. Where are the other palaces? Well, most of the other palaces were refined by the master. You said they sold them if there was no more sacred stones. When the master refined the Zaiwei Palace, he couldn't think of a name, so he named it after me. Xiao Zi felt a little proud when she said it was named after her. Yuan ignored it, and while it was in a good mood, she quickly asked, oh, is the Zaiwei Palace made by me, the owner? Yes, we made it together. Yuan is embarrassed. Why now? She doesn't know how to make weapons, but only knows how to make alchemy and draw talismans. Xiao Zi, does she know why her master was beaten to death by the crowd? Xiao Zi said angrily, isn't it the boundary-breaking gate in your consciousness? See? Yuan was embarrassed again. She had said before that Jimin loved to show off so much, and she probably died because of it. As expected, she was also killed. She wanted to throw it away. But thinking about its incredible function, why did Mao not take her to escape in the first place, but it was damaged? Xiao Zi knows how it broke. I don't know. I was fighting with the Red Lotus Karma Fire at that time. I don't know why, but the gate suddenly broke and the master died. I also suffered the backlash and was controlled by the owner of the Red Lotus Karma Fire, and then was sealed. Who is the owner of the Red Lotus Fire? Yuan felt no emotion when she heard this, as if she was listening to other people's stories. It's weird, shouldn't she have the urge to kill those people to avenge herself? Why not? It's Emperor Donghua. Great Emperor, that is the person who stands at the top of the divine world, so was she also very awesome before? Then what was my previous identity? The goddess Zaiwei. It's named after you again. Yuan was very depressed. Couldn't he have chosen another name, just Zaiwei? Yes, the master said that the name is just a code name, as long as it is you. Oh, she is really amazing. Then Xiao Zi knows if the master's previous skill was star art. Yes, because the master is a unique star body, which is different from the chaotic body, the five thunder body, the black ice body, etc. Those bodies can appear in multiple numbers at the same time, and the master's star body is unique in the world. Xiao Zi actually knows so much. If he hadn't seen those ruined palaces today, he wouldn't have told her anything. Are you not saying that she is too weak now? But today's harvest is not cheap. Although I didn't get any treasures, it is more valuable to know what happened back then than to get the treasures. Yuan looked at the palaces again. She originally wanted to bring the Zaiwei Palace into the space, but after thinking about it, she decided not to. There was no value left in such a state, and bringing it in would still take up space. Oh, by the way, Xiao Zi, Master, do I have this space at that time? No, the life space is rare in the world. You must understand the space formation to refine it. The master does not understand the space formation. Yuan asked some more about Xiao Zi's past, and Xiao Zi told them all. It can be said that it has told everything it knows. Yuan then took back her consciousness. Waner, how about the mirage? Mujukan was very curious about it, so he might as well go and see it. Cannot go. Oh. Mujukan was a little disappointed, but he let it go since he couldn't go. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 517. Chapter 517 100 Years. Let's go out later, Yuan said, just as she took a look at the advanced blood-eating monster insect. Mujukan nodded and went to take care of the medicine field. Yuan came to the nest of blood-devouring demon worms and looked at the blood-devouring demon worms that were as thick as an arm and 2 feet long. She picked up one and put it in her hand to look at it. Owner. At this time, the blood-eating demonic insect on her hand called her. It was the voice of a 5 or 6-year-old girl, which was cute. Well, is the little thing consolidated? Yuan nodded its little head. Master, Zioxy has already consolidated. Oh, you even chose a name yourself, Yuan smiled. Master, are you nice? Master, does that sound good to you? Xiao 11 stood up and put his body softly on her shoulders. That sounds great. Do you have a name for each one? Yuan was very curious. What are the names for so many? No, those lazy guys didn't take it. Well, there must have been dozens of them. Xiao 11 also tilted his head. Haha, you are not lazy, you are also a foodie. Yuan poked it again. Master, you can't dislike us. We are born to only eat, you can't blame them. Their devouring ability is too strong. If they have another big ability, it will be unreasonable. Why do I dislike you? If I dislike you, you would have died a long time ago. Yuan put Xiao 11 back and sensed it with her consciousness. There were still more than 1,000 people connected with her, including Xiao 11. She sighed. There were still more than 6,000 left after overcoming the tribulation this time. The higher the level, the lower the success rate when overcoming the tribulation. All said and done, the bloodline is still too low. If they hadn't been transformed, none of them would be able to pass the 9th level. The next time I advance to the level of fairy beast, I'm afraid there won't be many left. After seeing that they were fine, Yuan returned to the training room and practiced hard. Time flies, and the two of them stayed in the space for 100 years. Their cultivation also improved by leaps and bounds. Yu's cultivation reached the great perfection of void refining, and Mujukan's cultivation reached the middle stage of Earth Immortal. Over the past 100 years, they have not only been cultivating, but Yuan has also visited Liangbao. Their cultivation speed is much faster than hers. They are now in the middle stage of integration, which makes her sigh. She, as a mother, is considered a waste in cultivation in front of them. Mr. Mu from Kinjao continent finally ascended to the spirit world. He also stopped thinking about strengthening the Mu clan. He disbanded the Mu clan before his ascension. After his ascension, he helped Yu Heiran's Juya trading company and lived a good life. His temperament has also calmed down a lot, and he is not as bold as before. He helps in the business every day and practices at night. Yu Heiran's Juya trading company has Yuan's elixir as its backbone. It has already opened branches all over the Lynxu world and has become the largest trading company in the Lynxu world. Because of Yuan's unnatural methods, people who want to trouble Juya trading company will always disappear inexplicably the next day. As time went by, even if Juya trading company did not have a Mahayana monk to guard it, no one would dare to make an idea. The cultivation levels of the brothers Yu Heiran have also grown rapidly. Yu Heiran has the highest level of cultivation and is now at the void refining realm. The four of you Hao are almost at the void refining realm. As for Xiaoliu, she is still in the transformation stage, and her son's cultivation level has surpassed hers in the distraction stage, let alone the stone cultivation level. Stone's single-line spiritual root is really God's darling, and his cultivation is now at the combined stage. If he had half as many opportunities as Mujukan, he would probably be an immortal. In addition, Wu Sheng has been working quietly with Yu Heiran these years and is a good helper. Yu Heiran has not treated him badly. He will give him any pills as soon as possible. His current cultivation level is the same as Yu Hao and others. Bai Zi has also dispersed the power in Qingli continent. A large family has come to the Lingxi realm long ago, and now its power is not small. It can also be regarded as a second-class cultivating family in the Lingxi realm. Fen Yuan, like Bai Zi, resolutely abandoned the power of Qinjiao continent and came to the Lingxi realm, living next to Bai Zi. Now his power is even worse than that of Bai Zi, and he is considered a third-class immortal cultivating family. However, Yuan always paid attention to them, which made Fen Yuan full of emotions. If he had been greedy for the power of an emperor in the world, how could he have the immortal life he has today? He also asked Yuan to take him back to see the Great Yan Empire. Today, the Great Yan Empire is the most prosperous country among the four countries and has become the leader of the four countries. The current Emperor Feng has been adhering to Fen Yuan's instructions. He can only build a strong country, but cannot unify the four countries. As long as the people live and work in peace and contentment and do not cause war. Yu's father and Yu's mother lived the most carefree life. After knowing that their daughter was not dead, the old couple put aside their grudges and left wherever they wanted to go. Sometimes I come to Yuan space to stay for a few days. The main reason is that the time between the earth and the world of immortality is not equal. Yuan just let them play for a while and then go back. She wanted them to live a little longer. Yuan also visited the disciples who remained in the secular world of Qinjiao continent. Those who are still alive are their descendants. Yuan did not disturb them and let them live their own lives. 100 years have passed in the outside world, and thousands of years have passed in the space. Dehe and the blood-devouring monsters have survived 2 more tribulations. Dehe is now a 4th-order fairy beast, and the blood-devouring monsters are now 2nd-order monsters. As for the little snake, it has never survived a single disaster, and its strength has been rising steadily. It can transform into a human body, but even if it doesn't like it, it still remains the size of a thumb. It often goes out to eat and drink with Dehe. Only the number of blood-devouring monster insects is getting smaller and smaller, and now there are still 3,000 of them. Even if Yuan kept giving them things to devour from the evolved bloodline, it would not change the fate of those fallen blood-eating monster insects. It really makes Yuan feel bad. Fortunately, their current abilities are incredible and make up for their shortcomings in blood. After being promoted to the 2nd-level immortal beast, their speed was stimulated, and they were faster than Yuan's star step. So after they successfully advanced to the next level, Yuan sent them to the 2 treasures. She and Mujukan were the only ones left, each with several hundred pieces left. Of the original 2,000 or so, there are now only 2 left, including Xiao 11 and another Xiao Xiao, 2 female blood-eating monster insects. To Yuan's regret, the blood-devouring demonic insects still failed to transform into human form. They still looked like insects, but they still grew up. They were as thick as calves and 3 feet long, and their fleshy flesh felt good to the touch. Yuan often moves them around, and they love to play with her. They fly around everywhere when they have nothing to do. Mujukan was so envious and jealous that he even said that his daughter-in-law would not kiss him anymore. Wan'er, look at this black plum, I've refined a middle-grade immortal weapon. Mujukan flew out that day, holding a dozen black plums the size of eggs to show her. Would you like to go out and try the effect? Yuan took it in her hand and looked through it and asked. Yes, let's go out now. Mujukan was extremely excited. It can be said that he researched this thing himself, and he definitely wanted to see the effect. He believed that such a one would kill even the immortal king, rather than just drinking a pot. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 518. Chapter 518 Immortal and Demonic Order. The two of them returned to the Kyungji Desert again. This time they did not become invisible. No, as soon as the two people appeared, they were immediately surrounded by poisonous insects and beasts. The mirage did not last long. There was no one in the desert, and these poisonous insects and beasts stared at them like hungry ghosts. Some of them flowed out of Hareza. Mujukan flicked the black plum at a powerful poisonous beast. Whoops! Horizonum flies away. The poisonous beast didn't know the power of the black plum, so it provocatively used its claws to catch it. Yuan and the two quickly flashed back to space. Institutions. The moment the two entered the space, Halizi exploded in the claws of the poisonous beast. Following the loud noise, streams of huge power were shot out from the center of the explosion. The poisonous beast was blown to pieces before it even had time to scream. The surrounding poisonous insects and poisonous beasts were all shot into honeycombs by the force of the explosion. In an instant, just like the big poisonous beast, their bodies were shot to pieces and scattered in all directions. Yuan watched the scene from space and couldn't help but sigh at the power of the Halizi. Those carapaceous poisonous insects that usually cannot be affected by medium-grade immortal weapons are like pieces of crispy skin in front of Halizi, and they will break into pieces as soon as they stick to them. When the two came out again, there was a large pit where the explosion occurred, and the broken corpses of poisonous insects and poisonous beasts were scattered everywhere around the pit. Mujukan flew up and spun around. He nodded with satisfaction. The power is pretty good, 5 or 6 times stronger than before. It's no problem to blow up an immortal king or something. Should I go back to the Xianling sect and throw a few more? It's okay to retaliate if you keep causing trouble for him. Waner, how about we go back to the Xianling sect? Mujukan winked at Yuan. You are not naive, let's go. Yuan glared at him, and then took him back to the immortal spirit sect of the Eastern Immortal Territory. The Xianling sect returned to its normal state. Tianyuan sighed in the immortal mansion. His guess was indeed correct. Since he accepted Jukan as his disciple, the Xianling sect has been peaceful for more than 100 years. It's just that the price is a bit high. The entire wealth of the 4 old guys, plus the treasure house in the sect, which was accumulated by the Xianling sect for millions of years, was completely wiped out. It makes me sad just thinking about it. What he didn't know was that Yuan received the space and didn't even look at it. He just went to find what he needed. Tianyuan felt distressed for a while, and all the good mood was gone when he thought about what would happen tomorrow. He waved his hand, and 3 streams of light flew out of his immortal mansion. Not long after, Tianxin and 2 other ancestors also came. Brother, why did you summon us so urgently? The 3 asked. Tianyuan asked with a sad face, do you know the immortal and demonic orders? Immortal demon order? You know, what's wrong, senior brother? Tianxian asked calmly. Immortal demon order. Yuan, who had just arrived at the immortal spirit sect, looked at each other. Mujukan shook his head and hid in the corner to listen. Hey! It's not a good thing when the immortal demon order comes out. Let's go to the East Emperor to pick it up tomorrow, Tianyuan said with a constipated look on his face. Senior brother, I heard that the master mentioned the immortal and demonic order back then. The master and all the uncles also went to receive the immortal and demonic order and did not come back. What is going on? Tianxin asked with a frown. Tianyuan said, sooner or later we will face this day, let me tell you about it. Before leaving, Master left a jade slip for me and told me that in the immortal world, immortal and demonic orders will appear every 500,000 years. These immortal and demonic orders can only be picked up by people in the realm of the immortal emperor. After receiving them, they will be sent to a place where I don't know what happened next because very few people came back from that place. You should go back and make arrangements. We probably won't be able to come back if we go. Those who went to that place are still alive, but they don't know what happened there. The people who came back either died or ascended to the divine realm, and no one knew what was going on inside. They are not afraid. This level of cultivation is the same no matter where you practice. It's just that all the people in the immortal emperor realm in the immortal world have left, and those restless people will take the opportunity to cause trouble again. After finally enjoying peace for 500,000 years, there is no peace again? It turns out that this is the case. They thought that the ancestors of the sect were retreating somewhere, but it turned out that they were sent away by the orders of immortals and demons. The three of them nodded heavily and went back. They all know that the senior brother just said that even if you don't pick up the immortal demonic order in person, the immortal demonic order will find you and send you away. As soon as the three of them left, Tianyuan stood there alone in a daze. It took him a long time before he summoned the sect leaders and told them that they were going into seclusion. From now on, he would have to make decisions on all matters in the sect, big and small. You have to keep an eye on the sect from now on. Also, don't embarrass my disciple Mujukan when he comes back. Just let him live in my immortal mansion. The sect master said respectfully, "Don't worry, ancestor, I will definitely abide by the instructions of my ancestor." The sect leader is very happy in his heart. He wishes that the four ancestors of you would retreat and stop interfering in the affairs of the sect so that he could truly take charge. Mujukan, who was hiding in the corner, looked confused. When did he become this old man's disciple? Yuan's mind turned around a few times, and then she realized that this old man was smart. After he did this, they were too embarrassed to do anything. After the sect leader retired, Tianyuan meditated. Yuan and the two entered the space and immediately arrived at the Dongdi Immortal Palace. In the Immortal Palace, the East Emperor is smiling brightly. Those people will be sent away tomorrow, and only the four emperors of the Southeast, Northwest, and Southeast are left in charge of the entire immortal world. There will no longer be any annoying ghost in the immortal emperor realm to fight against him, and I made a lot of money. When the two of them saw Dongdi's expression, they knew that Dongdi would not go, and they quickly returned to the space. Mujukan, do you think we should follow him to have a look? Yuan was very curious about where the immortal and demonic order sent the great power of the immortal world, and why. Let's go and have a look. The next day, Yuan and the two of them hid in the immortal palace. At this time, more than 40 people from the immortal emperor realm came to the immortal palace. Everyone looked towards the highest mountain in the immortal realm, Shishin Peak. The immortal and demonic orders were shot out from there. Shishin Peak is located in the center of the fairyland, thrusting straight into the sky like a sharp sword. The immortal demon order flew in 4 directions to the 4 immortal palaces in the southeast, northwest, and northwest, directly sending each immortal in the immortal emperor realm to the Tian Peak. The immortal magic order is not so much a token as a teleportation jade token. It can identify people in the immortal emperor realm and then forcibly teleport them away. At noon, suddenly beams of light flew out from the Tian Peak and flew into the immortal palace in the blink of an eye. Only then did everyone see clearly that the light was an arrow-shaped token as big as a palm, which was crystal white. At this moment, the token suddenly glowed with a white light. The white light instantly enveloped the immortal emperor present, and then there was a sound of. After the sound, the white light disappeared. Yuan was thinking, immortal demon order, there are only immortals here, is that demon the demon emperor of the demon world? End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 519. Chapter 519 Dryad. After the immortal emperor was the only one left in the immortal palace, Yuan glanced at the immortal emperor with a proud look and led Mujukan into the space. After that, she asked Jimin to take her to Tian Peak. She had wanted to go there before, but this time was an opportunity to see what was going on there. It's not that people in the immortal realm don't want to go up there to have a look, but no one can withstand the strong wind up there, not even those in the immortal emperor realm. There are actually people trying every day, but all come back without success. Unexpectedly, in order to go up, you need to meet the conditions and be teleported there. What is even more unexpected is that the place where the immortals and demons were sent is right in front of everyone. After Yuan used the boundary gate to find it, she did not rush in, but looked inside the boundary gate first. When the scene on the other side of the boundary gate became clear, Yuan couldn't help but take a breath. The immortal emperors who just flew in are fighting with a tree demon, and there are many people hanging on the tree who are dying. Those people have no flesh and blood, and they are just skeletons with bones wrapped in skin. Looking at the tree body again, it was clearly a person sitting cross-legged. The flesh and blood of the tied people flowed from the blood vessels on the tree body to the mouth of the tree man at a speed visible to the naked eye. Yuan was horrified to see it. Should she save those people? How to save? Those are the immortal emperors. They can't this tree demon. Can she? Just as Yuan was hesitant, Jimin suddenly led her inside. As soon as he entered, the boundary gate flew out and wandered around the roots of the tree. Yuan looked at this cruel scene. She stood aside invisibly, not even daring to get close. Xiao Zi, can you burn this tree? After a while, Yuan thought of Xiao Zi. There must be another fragment of the realm gate here, and it will make another noise when it merges. We need to find something to divert the attention of the tree demon. Master, let your man Nanming Liwo come out, let's try, Xiao Zi said. Good. Yuan immediately moved Mujukan out. Hiss. Mujukan also took a breath when he saw this scene. Mujukan, let's set off our own fire, Yuan said. Good. The two of them released fire at the same time, and the two fires rushed towards the dryad's mouth. As soon as the tree demon saw two of fire flying towards it, it swung out its branches to hit Xiao Zi and Nanming Liwo. As soon as the branch touched the two fires, it burned immediately, making it squeak in pain. The two fires took the opportunity to rush towards the tree demon's mouth again. The tree demon saw that something was not going well, and suddenly twisted a few times, and a man with long hair and white clothes floated out from the tree. He waved his hand and used two rays of immortal power to strike two fires. The two fires were immediately shot away by him. Oh, who set the fire? The man's pleasant voice shouted angrily, and his consciousness glanced around. Everyone who came in was caught and hung up by him, so no one had a chance. Yuan stared at the tree demon who suddenly appeared. Seeing him swatting away two fires, they knew that the two fires were no match for him. She pulled Mujukan and signaled him to direct Nanming Liwo to attack the tree demon. Mujukan naturally saw the boundary gate that had been floating at the root of the tree. This was the third time he saw it, and he knew it belonged to Wan'er. He also understood what Wan'er meant, so he quickly conveyed his meaning to Nanming Liwo. Without Yuan's instructions, Xiao Zi was swatted away by the tree demon. It twisted its body in the air a few times and flew to the other side to burn the tree demon's body. Nanming Liwo took the initiative to attack the tree demon. It transformed into a phantom of a red bird and pounced on the tree demon. Yuan's attention is now on Jimin. She has been looking for this thing for so long and still hasn't found it. She is afraid that someone will find it. It was indeed discovered. It was discovered by none other than the four ancestors of the immortal spirit section. Although they were unable to move, their spiritual consciousness could be used. They not only found the master who had turned into a human being, but also found the realm gate floating around the tree. Isn't this what Chang Shun and the others described, the incomplete thing that appeared in the small space in the sect? Why is it here? It's just that they don't have the energy to focus on that now, and now they are trying to find a way to escape from here. Now they finally understand why no one who comes here can get out. Not only the immortal emperors from the fairy world but also the demon emperors from the demon world are all here. The outcome is the same. Death is not death, but it is no different from death. This tree demon is very capable. Their bodies cannot move, and even their souls can be imprisoned. However, the soul cannot escape in this small space. If it escapes, it may cause death faster. Suddenly, there was a golden light under the tree, and something like a door shone with golden light. As long as anyone with a voice and a sense of consciousness is looking there. Even the tree demon fighting with the two fires looked there. Yuan covered her face. This guy is going to cause trouble again. Hey, the tree demon stretched out his hand to catch it. Not good, Yuan exclaimed when she saw this. Who is it? The tree demon stopped when he heard Yuan's voice, waved two fires with one hand, and walked towards where Yuan and the two were standing. He even grabbed it with his hands. His open 5 fingers instantly turned into branches and struck them straight. Mujukan and Yuan summoned the divine sword at the same time, and then quickly teleported away. Applicants. The two divine swords chopped down the branches several times. Interesting. The tree demon took back his hand. There was indeed an intruder in his territory. It has been a long time since something so interesting appeared. The tree demon pinched it with both hands, and countless branches and roots suddenly appeared in the entire space. Like a snake, it jumps around the space and is about to hit the boundary gate. Mujukan's spiritual consciousness sent a message to Nanming Liwo, asking him to quickly protect the realm gate. And Yuan's consciousness moved the little snake out, letting these tree demons play with the little snake. As soon as the little snake came out, Yuan immediately released the blood-eating monster insect. For a time, a group of snakes danced wildly, and the immortal emperors were dumbfounded at the scene. Xiao Zi took advantage of this opening and flew to the tree demon's body, sticking to it and burning it. The tree demon, who was having an inseparable fight with the little snake, felt a burning pain in his body. He screamed a few times, shook off the little snake and was about to attack Xiao Zi. Nanming Liwo, who had been guarding the boundary gate, saw this, opened his beak fiercely, and spit out a fireball. Why didn't it think of it just now? It can burn everything. Let's destroy the tree demon's body first. Boom. The fireball instantly enveloped the tree roots, burning with crackling fire. Ah! The tree demon hugged his body and screamed, as if the fire was burning on him. Mujukan, please don't let your flames burn up. People were hanging on the tree. Mujukan originally had this intention and immediately sent a message to Nanming Liwo. Nanming Liwo is also very proud. Isn't this thing very awesome? I beat them away before, now let him see some color. When it received the message from Mujukan, it immediately controlled the flame to burn at the root of the tree without any flames floating up. End of this chapter. The Brave Life of a Space Peasant Girl. Author, Lan Department. Chapter 520. Chapter 520 Space Upgrade. The fire made the tree demon scream. The immortal emperors who were hung on the tree were relieved to see it. It wasn't that no one among them didn't have the strange fire, but they didn't have the chance to release it. Also, ordinary strange fire and fairy fire seemed to be of no use to this old monster. Come on, burn him to death. Tian Yuan's blood boiled with excitement. Only by burning the old monster to death could they be saved. Mujukan felt funny when he heard what Master Cheap said and cheered for them. Okay, then come on. Yes, burn him to death, no matter who it is. The old devil, will definitely be grateful, said a man with a rough voice, like a man out of breath. Yuan looked around and saw a tall and mighty demon. Yes, I'm very grateful too. I'm very grateful too. Who is still paying attention to the realm gate fused under the tree at this time? Life is the most important. For a time, there were loud thanksgivings one after another, but each voice was very weak. Neither Yuan nor Yuan said a word, letting them talk non-stop. At this time, the Dryad demon was in too much pain to perform magic, so he mobilized his immortal power to protect his body. Unfortunately, Xiao Zi and Nanming Liwo were attacking him. The transformed human body was attacked by small snakes, blood-eating demonic insects, and the divine swords of Yuan and the two of them. For a moment, he was too busy to care about himself and couldn't care about here or there. In the end, I couldn't care about anything, and watched helplessly as the main body was burned off, and the whole tree collapsed. The moment the tree fell, the human body turned into a light smoke and disappeared between the sky and the earth. The branches immediately withered, and the person hanging on the tree fell to the ground like dumplings. At the same time, small snakes and blood-eating monster insects flew into the roots of the tree demon. Yuan had an idea and released Dehei, and Mujukan also released the golden dragon. There must be something good there. The two came out and ran straight over. Whoops! The monster from Jimin finally merged and flew into Yuan's sea of consciousness. Fortunately, the fallen immortal emperors and demon emperors were meditating to recover, and no one came to grab the realm gate. When some people saw Xiaozi, Nanming Liwo, Jinlong, Dehei, small snakes, and blood-eating monster insects, they were only shocked in their hearts, and no one had the intention to rob them. They knew in their hearts that others had saved them. They are all people who stand at the top of the fairy world. They have to be shameless, and no one wants to get a reputation of being ungrateful. When the time comes, it will arouse public outrage and be attacked by a group of people, which will outweigh the gains and losses. They are very grateful to be able to come back with their lives now. The most important thing is that if they take the opportunity to rob and do something ungrateful, they will breed inner demons in the future. Compared to becoming immortals, even if these things are peerless treasures, they will not be interested in them. They are afraid that they will not be able to get something more precious when they go to the God realm. After Jimin came back, Yuan breathed a sigh of relief and immediately put away Xiao Zi and the divine sword. Mujukan also put away Nanming Liwo and the divine sword, and they flew together to the roots of the tree demon. In the center of the tree roots was a hollow that was more than 10 feet wide. When the two of them flew inside, they saw the spiritual pets resting on a huge red heart. The heart was attached to the broken wall of the tree. The two of them understood. That was where the tree demon stored its energy. No wonder the little snakes and blood-eating demon insects flew down. Mujukan was guarding his spiritual pet, while Yuan checked in the underground space to see if there was anything to take. The tree wall below is the same green as the outside, emerald green, and full of life. Yuan's heart sank for a moment, then she swung her divine sword and slashed at the tree wall. As the divine sword entered the tree, streams of fragrant green juice flowed out, carrying a strong vitality. Nice one. Yuan waved out a jade bottle to catch the juice. Mujukan smelled the smell and threw Nanming Liwo out to guard the entrance of the cave to help Yuan. Mujukan, let's go into the space, and I will move the tree root to the space inside. Yuan suddenly thought that she could take it directly from the boundary gate. Her brain short-circuited for a moment. This was a waste of time. After a while, the above those people came in to grab this thing, but they couldn't. Mujukan said, okay. So Yuan quickly brought Mujukan and the spiritual pets into the space. She also entered the space, and then with a movement of consciousness at the boundary gate, she uprooted the tree roots and threw them into the space. As soon as the spiritual pets saw it, they pounced on the heart and devoured it. Yuan collected the tree roots and the tree body into the space. At the same time, in that small space, someone saw the roots and body of the tree suddenly disappearing out of thin air. There was no sound at all. It's so shocking and so powerful. Who has such great ability? Is he the one who saved them? Only Tianyuan opened his eyes and was speechless. This scene was so similar to what happened in their Xianling sect. The disciples and their storage spaces disappeared out of thin air without anyone in sight. Especially the things in the treasure pavilion, he had checked them using the magic of returning light. The method is the same as this. Tianyuan's mood was up and down suddenly, and his emotions were very mixed. Mujukan, I want to see what else is in the small sky. She wanted to see if there was any treasure in this mountain peak that could turn a tree into a spirit. Do you want me to go with you? No, just take out the sap from the roots of the tree. I'll be back soon. Good. Yuan immediately controlled the realm gate to search down from the top of the Tiantian peak. This tree demon's roots are so long that from the top to the bottom, the entire peak is hollowed out by it. Yuan's consciousness reached the bottom of the peak and then underground. When she was 1,000 feet away, her consciousness saw a group of green crystals. The tree demon's roots originally wrapped it, and there were traces of entanglement on the green crystal. No wonder no one discovered it. Yuan's consciousness moved, and the ball-sized green crystal appeared in the palm of her hand. Whoops! Suddenly, the green crystal flew away and was swallowed up by the red earth. Boom! The space immediately began to tremble, and Yuan's consciousness moved, and she controlled the realm gate and rushed to the Qingxi realm. As soon as they arrived, the two of them, including the spiritual pets, were all thrown out. I go. Yuan got up, the space was too big. It makes such a big noise just by upgrading it once. Are you upgrading again? Mujukan put his hands together, pulled her over and hugged her, and then summoned his spiritual pets. Well, it probably took a little longer this time. Yuan was a little regretful that it was swallowed up by the space before she had a chance to see what it was. Things that can be swallowed up by space are definitely not ordinary things, and space didn't even mention leaving any for her. It's okay to have bigger fingernails. Yuan sighed and had no choice but to fly to the forest with her spiritual pets to settle down. Waner, do you want to send a message to Dabeo and Urbeo? Mujukan asked after settling down. Okay, she came here just to see her sons, and she missed them very much after not seeing them for a long time. Liangbeo was fighting with a group of people, and seeing no match for them, they threw out the blood-eating demonic insects and wiped out the group of robbery cultivators in 2 strokes. End of this chapter.